Hey, good morning, everybody. If you are a person who's working in the environmental field, will you please stand up? If you're working in the environmental field, please stand up. All right. Hey, come on in out there. Sydney, follow the rules. Come on. All right, well, please stay standing. Stay standing. Okay, so I want you real quickly, just so we know who's here from this world, to shout out your names and what your company is, all right? Just pass the mic back. You guys want to start?
Sure. I'm Laura Weintraub with Limnotech, and my colleague Tim will be on the panel today.
Slow down, Limnotech.
I'm Laura Weintraub with Limnotech. We're a water resources consulting firm, and Tim will tell you more on the panel.
I'm Roger Rail. I'm a citizen volunteer watching over the Paul Gelman-Danaher Winford dioxin contamination that's underneath this building heading through the city of Ann Arbor, and some of it's going north towards my neighborhood. And the new permit for that, discharge permit that the company's partially treating the dioxin was issued this week, so I'll be able to answer any questions about that. This will be I'm into my 31st year as a citizen volunteer watching over and I tell people I can't do it for another 31 years because I'm term limited. Somebody else?
We need to hear you. We need to hear you.
Hi, I'm Teresa Tupaz. I have a couple different roles in the environmental sector. In a corporate job, I'm corporate sustainability. In automotive, I work for Hannon Systems. And outside of work, I'm a elected Pittsfield Township Park Commissioner. And I previously was on the Washtenaw County Environmental Council. So I'm very excited about today's presentation.
Hey, good morning. I'm Anya Dale. I work with the University of Michigan's Office of Campus Sustainability, and I'm on the City of Ann Arbor's Environmental Commission.
I'm Jeffrey Pan, and I work for an EHS company called Quantum Compliance. We do a lot of safety modules right now, kind of helping companies like digitize a lot of their safety services and exporting kind of those documents. But we are trying to get into environmental sector, so I hope to learn a lot today. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Brush, and I came this morning to support all my people up there. I run an environmental nonprofit called the Stewardship Network, and we support all of the people who care for nature all across the country. And we have an event next Monday and Tuesday in East Lansing where there will be more than 300 people together to learn about all kinds of different things, whether it's one of the Great Lakes Islands and the cool biodiversity stuff that they did there, or, oh gosh, Limnotech, you're not there this year presenting, which you often are, but other river kinds of things. And so if you want to learn more about that event next Monday, Tuesday, you can go to our website or talk to me, stewardshipnetwork.org.
Okay, I'm Jim Fry, CEO of Resource Recycling Systems, and my lovely wife, Lisa, heads a great organization. And Resource Recycling Systems is a consultancy that works on sustainability, recycling, circular economy, and climate impact and resilience. And actually, we do that in partnership with the state of Michigan through a program called Next Cycle Michigan. And again, if any of you are interested in that kind of world, please come up to me and talk to me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lee Berry. I'm with the Michigan League of Conservation Voters. And Lisa, our executive director, will tell you more about us in the program. But we are the state's leading political voice in Lansing, working side by side with legislators, driving new change on the fronts of clean water and the climate crisis and voting rights. And you can check us out at michiganlcv.org.
Now, how about one other thing? Is there anybody here who's looking for work in the environmental sector? Please stand up if you're looking for work. All right, stand up. Say your name. Get hired here.
So my name is Jasmine Jajina Sincular, or call me JJ for short. I have founded CLA Solutions. It's a clean energy and sustainability consulting firm. I'm looking for work to work as a consultant for corporations to help them identify and reduce their greenhouse gases through coming up with innovative solutions, engineering, etc. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. CLAsolutions.com. Thank you.
Anybody else looking for opportunities in the field?
Hi, I'm Betsy Palazzola. I worked for 10 years in the city of Detroit in the mayor's office in the Housing and Revitalization Department. I currently do freelance sustainability consulting. I have a public policy degree, and I'm really active here in the city of, in the city of Detroit next door, not here, in the region. And I do have availability of consulting hours, so.
Good morning. My name is Josh Ludy. I'm currently in the midst of a career pivot. I recently completed a master's degree in economics, and I've been looking for work in sort of the intersection of public policy, sustainability, and economic analysis. So if anybody has ideas, suggestions, or you're looking for somebody who sounds like me, let's talk. Thank you.
I wanted to give a shout out to Josh because he's playing middle linebacker on Sunday. He was on the taxi squad. No, Josh is one of the brightest, capable people I know, and I think any of you who are looking for somebody who's really sharp and knows analytics very well, Josh would be a great person to do. Now, welcome to LeadersConnect. I'm Rob Pasick, and I know about half of you, and half of you are new, which is great. This is our 25th year doing it. It's 25th year. Woo. Thank you. We started with a small group of about 8 people who were, there's a peer supervision group for people who were leading companies. As a matter of fact, Paul Friedman was in that original group. And then that group expanded. I did a few more groups, and then we started bringing in speakers. Bob Quinn, who you know, most of you probably know, was the first speaker. Actually, Bob Quinn is a very famous professor, and they just named a special chair for him at the business school. So it's really exciting for Bob. So then it grew from there. We went to the IT zone when that was existing, and then we came here, and we're here because of our great sponsors. And just a couple shout outs. Rob, I saw you come in. Where's Rob? Is he here? No. Rob? Over here. Oh, Rob, come on up. Rob, come on up. And this is one of the sponsors. Tell them about your group.
All right. Hi, I'm Rob Crockmo. Good morning, everybody. I'm with the Cernow Company. We own commercial real estate around Metro Detroit. We have a Flex R&D building in southern Ann Arbor, south of the airport, and we're looking for some new customers to join our building, along with Merit Network, Center for Automotive Research, IRIS, and NAMC, which is a military contracts company, and here to hear more about the environment, what we can do to make our building more sustainable, and hopefully fill some space with Ann Arbor's leaders and best. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space. It's right near yours, Tim. It's right down the road. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have talked. And actually, Dilip has got a building out there where I have my office. So hopefully you can talk to some of these folks. So if you're looking for space, it's a great spot out in Avis Farms. That's the Office Evolution is another. Where's Office Evolution? Yeah, just say hi. Office Evolution is a co-working space that's about the best. It is the best in town. It's not only do you get space to work, but it's a wonderful community, and they have a wonderful happy hour today. Every hour. What time is not every hour? Friday is a good day. Okay, I'm going to try to be there today, 4:55. Yeah, 4:55. It's not all day then. Actually, I was listening to the, I think it was the Daily yesterday. They were talking about what's happening with work and are they getting people back. And one of the things that they have done is included like happy hours every night. So they have beer and wine, and you can stay at work. I thought, that's not going to work. First of all, people have to drive home, and secondly, people want to get home. They're not going to stay late to have a beer. But maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Bank of Ann Arbor. Is anybody here from Bank of Ann Arbor today? Bank of Ann Arbor has been a long-time sponsor, and Mike Cole has got this cold that's going around. It just hacks away, at people. It stays around for a couple of weeks. It's pretty bad. Let's see. Who am I forgetting? Help me, Megan. Varnum Law. Yeah, I think Matt is Matt here. No, Matt is not here. So those are our sponsors, and also, of course, Zingerman. So this all started where we came here. Zingerman's gave us the space. Mike Cole gave us the food, and we have a new sponsor. Come on up. Yeah, just.
I didn't write the check yet, but.
Oh yeah.
I'll talk. I can talk. Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Kemper Sosa. I own a health and wellness studio down by South State Road called Applied Fitness Solutions, where we are combining medical fitness and personal training to turn people inside out from their health standpoint. Happy to be here with Rob, and thank you guys for coming out today.
Thank you. Just got notice yesterday that Kemper's going to be joining us. And Kemper's going to be joining me and on a program in it's February 23rd, our next program, and it's Heart Month in February. And Cindy's here from the Heart Association. Just step out, Cindy, so people can see you. And she has asked us to put together a program, and we're going to talk about heart health. And it's going to be about mind, body, and spirit. So I get to have the mind, not the body this week, but I got the spirit. But Steve Sarnes is also going to be joining us. Eric Fritz. Eric, stand up if you can see us. Hey, Eric is always standing, but he's had a particularly difficult year in 2023 about heart, and he has some stories to tell. And if anybody else has some stories to tell about things that you've been through, and we want to have an open forum to talk about keeping hearts healthy, which I believe still is the major cause of death in the U.S. Am I right with that, Cindy? Yeah. People think it's cancer, but it actually is heart. So we kind of take it for granted. Some of the things that we've learned about it are myths, and we're trying to get down to the scientific basis of things. So it's pretty exciting, very exciting. I want to talk about mind, body, health. Somebody take my picture. This is my new book, and it's called Men in Aging, and it's about how men in the aging process, which we all are, but it's kind of targeted for like 50 plus. I've been told that everybody will benefit from it as they're reading it, women in addition, and younger men. But it's really about tips that I've found over maybe like 20 years, 40 years really, that can help sustain a healthy, happy life. That's what it's about. And we have them on sale. Megan, you just see Megan. If you want to buy a copy, it's $15. I kept it at $15, even though I had the same demand for it that Taylor Swift had at her concerts. So the price is going up, ladies and gentlemen. It's supply and demand. Although I'm told that she's not hot anymore, it's now Olivia Rodrigo. So, correct? Yeah, Olivia's. I learned that from my granddaughters and from Megan that Olivia is the one. Who new song is Vampire? Here it is on CKLW Radio 80. So I want to turn it over to Dunrie after that. And Dunrie's going to run the program, introduce the speakers, and here you go, Dunrie. We're pretty close on time, aren't we?
Yeah, thank you. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited to be here. Thank you, Rob. Rob is a hard act to follow, as are the list of names he just named. Please don't compare me to Taylor Swift or Olivia Rodrigo. So my name is Dunrie Greiling. If you don't already know me, I have a Ph.D. in plant ecology, and I've been in the Ann Arbor area in the tech ecosystem for about 20 years now. And the reason I'm here probably is because I'm a friend of Rob's, and I've been part of the LeadersConnect community for a long time.
No, you're here because you're such a good interviewer. Really.
Yeah. I was born in Michigan. I've lived here most of my life. I love the vast and the moody lakes, and the little ones too. I love the forests and the fields and the beaches and the trees. I really love the trees. I want you to think of some place outdoors that you love, somewhere that inspires you. Picture it in your mind. Maybe it's a beach, maybe it's a tree house, or a cave, or a river. Think of its beauty. Think of the birds, the bugs, the ferns, the mushrooms, the berries, the iris, the lilies, the dogwoods, the pines, the squirrels, the foxes, maybe even the bear that live there. Think of the fresh air and water there. How grateful are we to those that showed us that place, that taught us the names of the birds and the trees and the bugs and the frogs. How grateful are we to those who came before and helped keep that place special, beautiful, to protect it. How grateful are we to those that protect it now? Because our water, our air, our farmland, our natural areas need our protection. They may be at risk due to climate change, development pressure, pollution, other things, or all these together. So leadership in the environmental sector is like leadership anywhere else, the work to unite and motivate teams of people to work together towards a common goal. And yet there's an added dimension of crisis and loss and maybe despair at play. And so for that reason, I am so excited to learn from 3 established, successful, and inspirational leaders in the environmental sector in this week's LeadersConnect. So I'm going to introduce each of them in the order that they're standing, and then I will have some questions for them, and then we'll do some questions for each of them to help them introduce themselves more. And then I'll have some questions for the panel, and then we'll open it up to questions from you. So it'll be fun. All right, so first to my right for you is Phil Roos, who was appointed as the director of Michigan's Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy in July 2023. He's managing a team of 1,400 people and a $1 billion budget focused on safeguarding Michigan environmental and public health. I'm so pleased you were able to make the time to join us today. He brings a wealth of experience as an entrepreneur and business leader with expertise in organizational strategy and growth, and has a long-standing commitment to environmental protection, evidenced by his roles in various conservation and health organizations. He's a U of M and Harvard Business School alum. Woo, go blue, go crimson, I don't know, something like that. Enjoys hockey, cycling, music history, health fitness, and resides in Ann Arbor with his family and 2 dogs. To the right of Phil, here we go. Lisa Wozniak serves as the executive director of the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, a position she has held since 2006, growing what was then a 2-person shop into a 30-plus person powerhouse. As one of the strongest state leagues in the nation, the Michigan League of Conservation Voters works at the intersection of policy and politics to protect air, land, and water in communities all across Michigan, by activating voters to elect and hold accountable public officials who fight for an environment that sustains the health and well-being of us all. And then Tim Dekker, to the far right, is a Ph.D. and PE professional engineer. He serves as the president and CEO of Limnotech, specializing in environmental and water resource engineer in river, lake, and estuary remediation and restoration. He has spearheaded numerous scientific studies and technical projects across North America, focusing on water dynamics, urban flooding mitigation, contaminant transport, and forensic techniques for contaminated sites. Dekker has been instrumental in various national design competitions and projects dedicated to urban waterfront restoration and actively promotes advanced urban water management practices in the US, oh yeah, and in Canada. Yeah, that's cool because we share that water with them. Welcome, Tim. All right, so Emerson, we have one working mic, so we're going to hand this between us. Yeah, you want to? Do you want? Yeah, everybody can sit down if you want to sit. That's fine. Come on over here. Oh, you want your coffee? Okay. All right. All right.
Okay.
All right, so I have a few questions for Phil. Oh.
I want to say one thing that please take camera shots and post on video, post on social media. So, that's okay. That's good. Pull them out, but don't look at your email.
All right, so I have a few questions for Phil, and then we'll be going back and forth. All right, so tell us more about the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. And for those who don't know or may have lived here for a long time, what is the difference between EGLE and DNR?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Great to be here and on this esteemed panel. So EGLE is the name of the department, Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. We only do acronyms, though, in state government. So EGLE is the chief regulatory agency for the environment for the state. So our mission is around protecting Michigan's air, land, and water. And by water, I mean everything from drinking water to lakes, streams, wetlands, and everything in between. We also play a key role in protecting the Great Lakes. The Office of the Great Lakes is housed within our agency, and we're the agency that was charged with drafting and now leading the implementation of what's called the My Healthy Climate Plan. So that's the state's plan to decarbonize and convert to 100% clean energy by 2040. And Lisa's team and many others in this room played a key role in helping us pass a pretty groundbreaking set of laws that will put that plan into action in this last legislative session. So that's a lot. We're doing this, we have this regulatory role, but it's all geared toward protecting the public health of 10 million Michiganders and also people's economic livelihood, their way of life, everything that depend on those resources. And how we're different from DNR, geez, I don't know. We were once one agency, and it's been split up. They've been put back together, and it's split up right now. The DNR is responsible more for conservation of resources, public parks, state trails, things like that. More of a recreational bent, but there is some overlap, and we collaborate with them a lot. We have 3 agencies, DNR, EGLE, and then, for another acronym for you, MDARD, Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. We're called the Quality of Life Agencies, and there's a lot of overlap between what we all do, and we've got 3 relatively new directors of those agencies, and we're doing a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of in government, this silo mentality that we're trying to get out of and just we're all state of Michigan trying to work together, and we've put a lot of effort into that recently.
Thank you. Next question, what is a day in the life like of the director of EGLE?
Boy, there is no single way to characterize that. I would say every day starts first thing in the morning. Our entire leadership team, every day, except today because I'm here, but they're carrying on without me. We have a leadership meeting, and we go over what we're going to be hit with that day. It's kind of heavy focus on the threat matrix of what spills are happening, what issues are blowing up, who's mad at us, what are the opportunities that we have that we can take advantage of. That's the good part of it. And then we go off and do our day, and you're hit with a lot of different things. The core functions of the agency are things like permitting and monitoring for environmental issues, and then enforcement. So there may be 3 or 4 issues related to those topics: a key permit, somebody who's a big violation we got to figure out how to deal with that will pop up. There's a lot of, in my role, I have leaned pretty heavily into engaging with the public and with key stakeholders, whether it's environmental groups or people in communities or business leaders trying to get business to be part of environmental protection. That's been a big emphasis for me, trying to build the bridges between those two worlds, economic development and environmental protection, because I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think they can work together, and we've had some success with that, actually working with businesses to help them and their colleagues more easily comply with the law. I probably have about, I'd say, 12 to 16 meetings a day, kind of back to back, and then there might be an event in the evening, and there's a lot of engagement within the agency too. This is an agency that has been underfunded for years. At one point it was 2,000 people, and then it dropped to 1,000, maybe 8-9 years ago at the beginning of Governor Whitmer's administration. We're back up to 1,400 and have authorization to go to 1,600. So we're trying to build it back, and the agency's been through a lot. Flint water crisis, a lot of other real challenges. So a big part of my role has been trying to rally everybody together. I might say more about this later, but we've set a pretty inspirational vision for the agency. We're calling it Vision 2027, to within 3 years be a truly enduring national leader in environmental protection across our program areas. So to be really one of the top tier states in the country. And we're setting stretch objectives across every part of the agency, and we're benchmarking ourselves relative to other states, and also trying to be better at service and engagement and communication and all those other things that are important, while making it the best place to work in state government. Trying to do all of that really quickly. And so I've been spending a lot of time helping work with people to ultimately formulate that vision, and then I just sell it all the time internally and externally, and the team's been great. They really seem to be rallying around it.
So, yeah, I have so many questions about how you maintain your personal energy with all of that going on. Coffee. It's amazing. All right, I'm going to go to Tim next. Same questions, actually. Tell me more about LimnaTech. What kind of work does your team do on a daily basis? And then, so we don't have to go back and forth too much, I'll ask you that same question about your day.
Thanks, Dunrie. Yeah, so we're a much smaller organization. LimnaTech has been around since 1975, and we're a group of 85 scientists and engineers. We're an environmental consultancy. We work exclusively on environment and water resources work. And you know, as part of that, what that means is we work for clients in the federal sector, the Army Corps of Engineers, the EPA, the USGS, clients that are in the municipal sector. So we're working very actively with the city of Detroit right now, and cities around the U.S. and actually around the world. And then a pretty active consultancy in the corporate and industrial sector. So lots of folks in the Fortune 500 and the Fortune 100 are taking real action in the environment and in water resources management to make changes in how they operate. So Our consultancy kind of works on thinking about all three of those different sectors all at the same time and figuring out solutions for them as they face issues in the water space. And a big part of our work is climate and climate change adaptation. The saw that I keep on hearing these days is that if climate change is a shark, then water is the teeth. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. We're finding that the way that climate change manifests is through changes in water and water availability, too much water, not enough water, water of insufficient quality. So we work, we're the pretty technical guys who kind of work in that space and try to better understand how to create solutions in the water space. And Phil, like you, I think I'd sort of struggle with a good answer to the question, what does my typical day look like? I was going to complain about how many meetings I have, but I'm not going to complain about that anymore. For me, it's a lot of running around. I would like to say that I'm sort of a steady leader who sits in the middle and impassively governs everything that happens. But really, it is a lot of running around. It's a lot of pep talks and therapy sessions and communication, taking care of the team, really thinking about everybody's objectives within the organization, making sure that they're aligned, and that just takes a lot of talking and a lot of spending time with people. And actually, because we work across those three different sectors, federal, municipal, corporate, there are things that are happening in each one of those big sectors that are very common. Everybody's trying to do the same thing. Everybody's trying to deal with climate change and environmental issues and water adaptation. And the people in the federal sector sometimes come up with a great idea that the folks in the municipal sector need to hear about. So I spend a lot of time just kind of cross-pollinating across our organization to make sure that that everybody knows what's going on and we're getting the best thinking across everything that we do. So yeah, if I had to say who I am, like what my persona is at work, I think I'm the border collie in some ways, running around, kind of nipping at heels, and just making sure that everyone's kind of in a right group and moving in the right direction.
So I'm curious where you learned to do that. I'm a Ph.D. and I didn't learn any people management in my technical training.
Totally fair question, and I think when I envisioned what I would be doing when I was in grad school, I had this picture of just a life that was dominated by the technical work that I was employed at the time, and I would say though that it's great work. I mean, it requires being able to see how the big technical objectives. We're a very techie firm. We have big technical objectives that we're trying to achieve. I mean, there is nothing more complicated than solving problems in the water space. They are wicked problems. But finding solutions to those by working with people, motivating people, helping them to see what the answer could be, giving them, sharing some of the passion about it. That's kind of what it really needs to be. So yeah, you just figure it out as you go.
Very fair. All right, Lisa, tell me about the League of Conservation Voters and what kind of work does your team do on a daily basis?
Well, first, let me say thank you, Dunrie, for this invitation, and Dr. Rob and the sponsors. Feel very lucky to be here with these two really wonderful leaders. You've heard a little bit about the League through the introduction that Dunrie provided, but also that my colleague Lee provided. We have been around since 1999. We work at the intersection, as Dunrie pointed out, of policy and politics. And we were founded because there was a gaping hole in the environmental community that was basically accountability. When people run for office, they always say all the right things. They say they're going to save the world. They say they're going to do the right thing on water protection. And oftentimes when they get there, they don't actually do that. So we were founded for accountability and then also for the elections piece. Electing people, and when I first started in 1999 as a board member, we were talking a little bit about longevity. I think there's about a story here about longevity in our organizations, which we can get into. I was a board member in 1999, and we were able to work in a bipartisan fashion at that point. And really, these issues are nonpartisan issues. So we lean into the protection of our air, our land, our water, and newly, in the last 5 years, the protection of our voting rights and our democracy, because it's really been pushed to the limits, through a nonpartisan lens. And unfortunately, over time, that's become more and more difficult. Our organization has grown from 2 people to almost 40. I've stepped into the role, I guess it's been 18 years now that I've been in the executive director role. And our vision is that in our new strategic plan, which someone on this panel helped to create and form when he was in a different role, is that by, in 20 years, Michigan will be the leading state in this country in the protection of our air, land, and water, tackling climate change, and protecting every single voter's right to participate in the democratic process. And I will say that in this most recent year, which I woke up post-election 2022 and didn't think we were going to have the legislature that we have, we leaned in a significant fashion and played a lead role in all of what happened last year to make sure that this state didn't just act on a whole host of issues that are not part of this agenda today, but took climate change very, very seriously, and clean energy, and made a commitment to putting the state in a lead role across this country. And now we are in the top 5 states in the country tackling climate and energy policy. And I 10 years ago, I would have never imagined that would be possible. So we are making progress. Our team is, like I said, a team of almost 40 people dispersed across the state. We have offices in Lansing, Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, Detroit, and personnel in the northern part of the state. This is a giant state. People outside of the state don't understand how big it is. And the last thing I'll say before answering the second question is that everything that we do, and this links to both of my co-presenters today, everything we do is done through the lens of water. If we're not talking about water in the state of Michigan, as we hold up our hands to define our state, we're not connecting with the people who live here. And so as we talk about climate, as we talk about air quality, everything, we link it back to water. And it was that water-climate nexus and connecting it to what the state legislature and the governor were talking about in terms of kitchen table issues that made last year's victories possible. So everything from PFAS to 1,4-dioxane to you name the issues that are plaguing our water, we talk about that and climate in a connected way. I come to this work, and I need to pivot to that just for a minute, because the last question to Tim about working with people, I come to this work in a very unexpected way. I have a couple of degrees from the University of Michigan that have nothing to do with technology, environment, science. I have degrees that are linked to education and psychology. I have a master's in social work and a master's in education. And I always intended to go and work in those spaces on public policy issues that are immensely important. But there was a curve in the road, and I volunteered on Lana Pollock's U.S. Senate campaign in 1994, went to work actually on that campaign, and began to understand how incredibly important it was to have leaders in this sector, and I've never left since that time. I bring that to this work, and so my day is filled with everything from working with people in nitty-gritty ways, having them see the power and the possibility in themselves, and also doing a lot of public work, like what we're doing here today. I am on a radio program on WEMU on a regular basis. I'm doing a Zoom later today with the governor. It's been a transformational process since COVID, where we were all like ducked down in our houses for many years, and all of a sudden it's feeling very weird to be back out in the public this much. But I'm doing a lot of that these days. And the last thing I'll say is, and we can get into this if you like, but we've adopted in the last 2 years a very new way of actually managing our team, which has been incredibly important. One of our board members insisted, and he paid for it, that we actually adopt the entrepreneurial operating system. And we have, and we do, and it has been a game changer for our organization. So happy to talk more about that if you want. Did I answer all the questions?
So maybe I think you did.
Day in the life? Yeah.
We have an EOS operator in the room.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeremy, our EOS implementer, you can raise your hand if you any questions, or for Lisa or Jeremy later. So I want to you did a nice job at answering the question that I asked Tim. I want to give Phil a chance to answer the question that I asked him. Was you prepare to lead people maybe by going to business school, but I think you learned a whole bunch of other things in business school as well. So how did you prepare to manage an organization of the size? Maybe you can't prepare for that, but the size that you're managing now?
Tough question. I wish I could say somebody laid out a template for doing this that I've continually follow and refer to, and it's not really. I think a lot of it for me is intuitive and just trying to listen a lot, be a good person. I like to say lead with love. Start out really trying to be of service to people. In terms of an organization of this size, this is bigger than any that I've led before. And it's a challenge with a lot of people who are remote or virtual, or we have 9 offices around the state, to connect with them on a regular basis. And one thing I saw coming in was a bit of a legacy of people living in silos. I talked about that in state government, and I think this is true in many organizations, but in a kind of a sprawling agency like that, we have all these different divisions and program areas and offices, and they work hard to try to talk to one another, but I don't know if there was as much of a feeling of one organization as we'd like to have, and so that for me, I always start with trying to get to a vision that is going to inspire people. It's kind of the intersection of what's the future look like, and we know what that is in the environmental world. There's a lot of major kind of planet-threatening challenges that we're dealing with. And the other part of that is we live in a divided world where people instinctively are against whatever the other side is saying. And so that's sort of a backdrop of sort of a starting place for me, is figuring out what that future looks like and then connecting that with the passions and I guess for the people in an organization, why are they on this earth, what's their purpose in life, and trying to turn that into something that has emotional content and power for those folks. And so that's this vision that I mentioned earlier. That's what that was about. You had a group of people who are all dedicated to the mission, all about excellence and doing the right thing by the people of Michigan, and just needed a way to wrap that together in a way that addressed the challenges that we as an agency and as a state are facing in the environmental world. So coming up with a vision like that, and then just being really accessible and omnipresent in talking about that. So I do, once every 2 weeks or so, I do an all-teams meeting. Everybody in the company, I come from the business world. Everybody in the organization. I meet with all the managers and supervisors. There are, I think, 125, 150 of them across the agency once a month, I guess, and sometimes more often. I meet with all the division directors every week, and I show up at every single event I possibly can and just try to be present and try to be transparent and let people be who they are and try to lift them up as much as I can, while at the same time setting really, really big goals and making that not feel like a punitive thing, but something we all want to hold ourselves accountable to achieving. That's it. But I think it starts with a lot of listening.
That's so helpful to hear. I think I moved on too fast from the EOS piece, because maybe that isn't clear to everyone in the room what that is. So I'm wondering if I can take it back to Lisa, just to have you introduce it a little more and describe maybe some of the key transformation that came from it, like a story about that. Would you be willing to do that?
So, as I said, one of our board members really insisted that we actually do this because it's been transformational for his business, and it's Bob Sutherland of Cherry Republic. And so I went in, I have to tell you, I went in skeptical. I felt like we had a very good management structure and a very good internal communication structure, and we spent time with an EOS consultant, just our leadership team, and it became clear that the very purposeful time looking at decision-making structures, who was responsible, not just who was in what seat in terms of title, but who actually had accountability inside the organization for delivering on certain things, which I thought was one and the same, really isn't and wasn't. And so we began to adopt it as a leadership team, and then solely shared the EOS management philosophy with the rest of the team. We now, we've purposefully leaned into defining our core values. We've had those in our strategic plan. Board and staff have defined them, but the staff really leaned into what are the core values of how we work together, right? How do we show up together? And we hold ourselves accountable to those. We have very clear meeting structures that everybody uses, whether it's the full team on Mondays where we all meet together, or it's in one-on-one meetings. The same structure of the meetings is actually put in place, and it allows for, I would say, to Phil's note, active listening, accountability one-on-one and within teams, and it really allows us to not only we were already doing this. I mean, we have a strategic plan, we have annual goals, we had quarterly goals, but it allows us to take it down even into more depth. We now set quarterly goals, we report to each other on those we have quarterly goals, quarterly meetings, we report to the board on those. And for so many organizations, and I would guess businesses, those strategic plans go on a shelf, right? They don't come alive, they're not celebrated, and we're not able to actually say at the end of a quarter or at the end of a year, what did we accomplish? And in this space that I work in, where there's so much nuance, there are so many outside factors, there are so many, things that can take you in different directions. I mean, just if you think about how to define environment, I mean, it's this giant space. Where are we focusing? And how are we going to actually say we've actually made progress? And we want to be able to say that to ourselves, to keep ourselves motivated, to keep our board motivated, to keep our members and our, the people that are counting on us motivated. And this has been a really important change for us for all of those reasons.
Thank you. That's really beautiful to hear. I believe that EOS is grown out of Michigan soil. Well, so it's actually really cool that it's a national program, maybe international, but it is also Michigan.
I recently met and I've befriended a woman who runs an international organization that's using EOS, also an NGO. And EOS is really set up for the business community. So we had to do some tweaks and feel comfortable in this. And sometimes it was really uncomfortable because the language is all very corporate. And she's very interested in having a conversation with the founder about actually evolving this into an NGO language and having it be applicable to that sector.
Very interesting. Tim, we're off-roading a little bit, but I'm wondering if you want to talk briefly about the management structure, the processes you put in place at LeadersConnect to keep everyone, what you use and found successful that other people might be able to build on, like what Lisa described and what Phil described.
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak about that. So we've actually gone through a lot of, I think one of the themes that's probably going to come out here is change. I mean, there's just so much change happening in so many ways in our world, in our environment. And this has been a couple years of very significant change at our company as well. We had a management transition. The original founder, Paul Friedman, who was one of the founders of this organization, retired just last year. And with his retirement, we moved to a different model of leadership that was distributed. So we've got a number of folks in charge of different aspects of our company. We've got folks who are thinking about science and technology, which is core to what we do. Folks who are thinking about business development and client relationships, kind of a core operations person, financial operations people, and business operations folks. And that has been wonderful and also challenging a little bit. I think it's what we need to do to grow, is to have that kind of distributed leadership. But it's been a real change. The other big change is we became an ESOP. So we essentially sold our company to our staff. And it was a difficult process. I'm not going to say it was easy. If someone's contemplating it, I'd be happy to talk with them about it. But at the end of the day, we're here, and we now are owned entirely by the staff of the company, and we're already starting to see. A little closer? Oh, wow, yeah, there we go. And we're really starting to see the benefit. People are owners, and they think of themselves as owners, and that changes the way that they think about how they come to work every day and how they're motivated to do the work that they do. So that's been just a really fantastic change. The other thing that I wanted to mention is just, how do you manage a company like this? 85 pretty independent thinking scientists and engineers. It's a challenging group of cats to herd if you're a border collie like me. And what we've really discovered, I think, is that as our market changes so much, we really needed to have not only a distributed leadership model, but a distributed business development model. So we're constantly scanning for changes in the marketplace, new work to do, and we've basically empowered everyone to take a role in that. And it was a risk, to give everyone room to do that kind of exploratory business development responsibility. Some people, it didn't feel quite right at the beginning, but we've really come around to the point where everyone understands that they've got a role to play. I hate to even call it business development, because it's really more about just sort of exploring the space in which we work, cultivating relationships with people who are doing important things in it, and then building on those relationships. Everyone benefits from that. Your career is enriched when you do that. So we've made that transition over the last 3 years or so. It's been, I think, really good. It's changed the way that everyone thinks about themselves and how they work within a company.
Succession planning and transition, that's really an achievement to have gone through that and emerged on the other side with vigor, right? That's beautiful. Okay, we spent a little longer on this, but there were some really fun topics to go into. So I want to start with a couple panel questions, and we'll do this for about 15 more minutes, and then we'll give you all a chance to ask these folks some questions. But I'm going to start with what do you consider the greatest recent contribution to environmental leadership? It can be something that your team has done, or it can be something you've seen, but share a success story of environmental leadership with us.
I'm not going to claim success on anything that I've done in my 6 months in this role, but I do feel like we're on the cusp of a pretty big turnaround of this agency, and it's not that it was in the dumper, but I mean, there's been a lot of progress, and there are others who paved the way, including, the governor's recent budget, which allowed us to bring on a number of new people and more properly fund the agency. But I think we've already had some success in defining what this agency is. That it's not just a regulatory agency. We're about impact, and that's how we're measuring success. What's the difference we're making in people's lives? How many contaminated sites are we cleaning up? How quickly are we replacing lead service lines in cities with aging infrastructure that can't afford to do that on their own? How well are we meeting the needs of people in communities that have experienced environmental degradation and a lot of burden from pollution and the outgrowth of our society? How well do we bring people together on some of these issues? how well do we play a role that's not often recognized in our work, but it's to support responsible economic growth and development? Can we be helpful to businesses, not in helping them cut corners and how to not comply with environmental regulations, but how to willingly comply, and for us to make that easy for them and to be part of the solution and bring other businesses into the cause? How do we make investments in communities that make a difference? That's what we're trying to measure ourselves on, and I think we're starting to make some progress on that. And it's required a different mindset for the folks in the agency, which is we're not here just doing our permitting and our normal procedures, which are very important, and following the law and the science. But we're also here to engage with people on the outside, to be responsive to their needs, to get involved in being helpful beyond whatever the particular jurisdiction is that we have, but just trying to be of service all the time and be there for people. So I won't claim credit on that, but I think we're making some progress. I'm going to borrow a little credit for spending some time in Lisa's organization. I was just kind of along for the ride, but one of the things I'm most proud of is I was on the board for 10 or 11 years, board chair for a few years, and I think when I started, there were 4 people in the organization, and I got to experience that whole arc. And so I'm not going to claim credit for that, but it's one of the things I'm most proud of, and it's a pretty seminal, formative experience for me and why I'm in this role. And just all the things Lisa talked about the role of politics and accountability, though a lot of us don't love that idea of politics, and it's messy and divisive, but it's important. You got to have the right leaders in office, you got to hold them accountable, you got to educate them, and that was a big learning for me. And of course, this is a very different situation because everything's a lot more nuanced when you're inside a big sprawling organization and all the workings of government. But I carry that lesson with me, and Lisa Brush and others, advocates in the room here, just how to maintain an advocate mindset at the same time that you're doing your job by the books as well. So that was a muddle, but I just wanted to claim some association there.
Just pass it that way.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've... Oh, yeah, there we go. All right. One of the things that we've seen that I feel like was a bold stroke in environmental leadership, the question really makes me think about one of our clients, actually. One of our clients is in the federal government. It's the Army Corps of Engineers. They have a lot of kind of, I guess, notoriety in the water space, to use that word. The Corps has been around for 150 years or so, and they've played a huge role in shaping our nation's waterways. And, reputationally, they're the ones who pour the concrete and build the dams and build the levees and control nature as opposed to working with nature. And I talked earlier about, developing relationships with people who are innovators out there and trying to get to know them. One of the guys that I got to know 15 years ago, a guy named Todd Bridges at the Corps, was sort of a next generation leader there, and he invented this idea called engineering with nature. So the idea of maybe starting to transform Army Corps of Engineers culture so that instead of it always being about concrete, it could be about maybe instead of a dam, we could have a wetlands. Maybe instead of a levee, we could have a dune. And that sounded almost too good to be true in the early days, but it has become a fundamental part of how the Corps is operating these days. And we've been, as a company, we've been really privileged to help with the program management of what has now become the Army Corps' Engineering with Nature program, which is a huge culture-changing, just I can't tell you how big of a change it's going to be, and it's already being at the Corps, All of the districts are trying to get on board. There's a mad scramble to retool at the Army Corps to figure out how to use natural processes to do the objectives that nature has been doing for tens of thousands of years already. But the Corps is getting on board, and it really came down to this guy who had this idea 15 years ago and was willing to kind of suffer the risk of loss of personal capital within his organization. He took some big risks and ultimately prevailed and became the guy who changed the organization. So it's been an amazing ride seeing that happen.
So I have the mic so I can break the rules just a tiny bit. I just first want to say that it's citizens like Roger all over the state that are making a significant difference in being watchdogs and making sure that their local and state and federal elected officials are being held accountable. So I could tell story after story after story about things that are things to celebrate. I want to pull to the fore one of those and then talk about this climate victory for a minute. There is a group of people that have been enormously and personally impacted by the chemicals called PFAS, PFAS. And their stories are horrific and tragic, and they, instead of going into their homes and closing the door and saying, I can't do anything, they've stepped up to make their voices heard, and they've inspired other people to do the same. And Sandy Wynn-Stelt on the west side of the state, who basically has the highest levels of PFAS in her blood, I think, ever tested in this world because of the contamination of the Wolverine Worldwide site. And Tony Spaniola, who has been fighting for justice around the Wordsmith Air Force Base, are two people that I admire incredibly. And they have and are making a tremendous difference, both in state-level decision-making and in federal-level decision-making. The DoD is actually listening. They have their ears open and are making changes on DoD sites because of the advocacy of people like Tony, and it is remarkable. So I can tell you more about that offline if you'd like. We've been helping with we helped to found the Great Lakes PFAS Action Network to be able to celebrate and support these citizen activists. But I must focus on the climate and clean energy legislation that was passed last year. To put a finer point on what happened, the governor made her State of the State speech last year, around this time, and it barely mentioned climate, water, energy. It kind of was a subtext. And we knew she had an agenda that she was going to push in the first 3 to 4 months, and she did, and a lot of things happened with this new legislature. Not much happened, if anything, on these issues. And so my deputy director, and a wonderful, smart guy, turned to me early on and said, they're talking about kitchen table issues. We're going to make climate change and clean energy a kitchen table issue. And we pivoted our entire organization, and we worked with a number of other organizations and lobbyists and coalitions and the clean energy tech industry and Bloomberg and Beyond Carbon. And we knocked on 88,000 doors between June and September and talked to people at their doorsteps about this with the state legislators. We did direct mail. We did surround sound media. We were everywhere. And we raised money because the legislators don't believe this community has money to put behind what they believe in. And we raised a lot of money to tell them we were going to be there if they took this vote. And it took everything we had and more. And by September and October, state legislators were talking about these issues as kitchen table issues, about clean energy jobs, about public health, about how high our rates are in this state, and why it matters to everybody individually. And we pushed, and we got right in the final hours before the legislature, went on recess, we got this thing passed. And as I said, now we're one of the top 5 states in the country. It was a team effort, but it was a huge victory. And I am incredibly grateful to Phil Roos for helping us have that vision as an organization of being able to achieve this, and for our board and staff that put every ounce of energy that they had into making this happen. It is something to celebrate as Michiganders.
there's so much good stuff here. I had so many questions for these folks. They saw a shortened list. I think I had probably like 15 more. And I'm going to cut out most of the middle questions and get to the last one that was on the 5 that I sent you ahead, which is your advice for aspiring leaders. So what advice would each of you give to young professionals and aspiring to be leaders in the environmental sector? And I guess maybe I'll start with Lisa.
That's right. Oh, boy. Lean into what you are good at and don't pretend you're going to be good at everything. Be humble in recognizing where you need to bring in smart people to be part of your team, and trust them. Give them responsibility that they can own and run with. And I think that's core. When I stepped into this role, and these jobs are tough. This organization is structured as 2 organizations, a 501c3, a 501c4, 2 political action committees, and I was supposed to know everything? No, I didn't. And I wasn't going to be the smartest political mind. I wasn't going to be the CFO. I wasn't going to be some of these things, right? I knew where my strengths were, and I leaned into those. And I would suggest to anybody that's going to step into these roles and lead in this time of crisis, right? It's time of water crisis, climate crisis. You've got to own the space that you're in, and you've got to take care of yourself along the way. And I don't think that many of us, and I've been trying to do a much better job of that. Through this time, I raised 2 boys. I'm lucky I have a very, very supportive spouse. But taking care of yourself and your family and modeling that for others so they know that they can and should do that too is really important. So again, lean into what you're good at, get folks that can be your partners and trustworthy teammates, and model what it means to be a healthy human on this planet, because it matters a lot. You can't do your work unless you're taking care of yourself.
You know, I think my recommendation to young leaders, and maybe it's a little bit obvious and maybe they've heard it a million times, but I will say it again. Learn how to write. And I'll expand on that a little bit. I think again, so much is changing in this world, and there is, as you just said, there is so much of a need to find teammates, to find partners, to convince people of the way forward, and to do that with some passion and some vision. I think every kind of major advance that I've seen within our organization or in the environment generally always came down to this well-crafted, well-thought-out, well-written idea that people needed to get on. And I would say, yeah, if you're brand new to this, if you're a young leader, really spend some time learning how to write. And if you can pair your scientific expertise or your very technical expertise or your legal or policy expertise with that ability to write, you really can change the world. So I'll just leave it at that.
Wow, not much left to say after these 2. I don't know if this is good advice or not, but it's just my own experience, and I don't think it would be any different if I tried. And that is, I guess the idea is, if you're, particularly this is probably geared to people earlier in their careers or mid-careers. I guess it could be later in your career, where you want to do something related to environment, or for that matter, anything else. Don't feel like you have to have it all figured out right from the start. I think we're all on a lifelong journey of figuring out why we're on the planet, what we're supposed to do, what we're passionate about, how does that fit with what needs are in the world. And I think it's about constructing for yourself a lot of experiments, ways of trying different things that gradually lead you to, hopefully, that union between who you are, what you're about, why you're here, and some pressing issue in the world that needs to be solved. I do feel like the key to it is I don't think any of us are really truly happy unless we're doing something that matters to other people, or the world, has a service element to it. And sometimes it's hard to find that. I'm the poster child in it taking a long time. I've been a CPA, a brand marketer, a management consultant, later in life, an environmental advocate, and then at my ripe old age, a state government leader of the environmental agency. I don't know anything about, I don't know, I know some things now, but I'm not a scientist, I'm not a lawyer, didn't know much about the environmental statutes or rules coming into the job. But to Lisa's point, it's finding that thing or suite of things that you bring to the world and that you're passionate about that are right for whatever moment you're in. And I have a kind of a simple rule that I am doing more and more of as I get older. And that is, if I'm in a situation and it feels right in my gut and my heart, do more of it. If it doesn't, divert the path a little bit and see where that takes you. It's a little bit more about being led to where you can make a difference. And don't worry about going down some wrong paths along the way. I sure have.
That's beautiful, each of you. Thank you. We have just a moment for questions. And I think what I'm going to try to do is repeat the question into the mic rather than run back and forth. So if you could be loud, and then I will repeat.
I'll try to be loud. In your work, have you encountered obstacles or solutions around artificial intelligence? And if so, could you give a real brief summary of what you saw and how you engaged with it?
In your work, have you encountered obstacles and opportunities with respect to artificial intelligence? And could you give an example? And it's close. Okay.
Tim wants to kick this off. I have one example. I went to a meeting. Our company is a science and tech firm, right? So we are definitely working with machine learning and AI. We're trying to figure out the right place for it to be. We're being very careful about it. I think human intelligence is really where it's got to end. But there are ways that machine learning and AI can kind of play an assistant role, and I think it always needs to be kept in that role for sure. But we're science and techie. We work a lot with design people in the architecture and landscape architecture space. They're actually very significant players in our world, in the world of water management. And I went to a meeting of the American Society of Landscape Architects a few weeks ago. And they go over weekends, these crazy conferences. And so there was one session that was happening at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, and I thought, well, this is going to be a quiet one. And it was on AI/ML. And I walked into the door, and it was packed. There were 450 people in there. And the whole talk was on AI and ML techniques in landscape architecture. So envisioning what could be, creating graphical realizations of what was possible for a particular site using AI/ML. And they were unafraid, I guess I would say. They were willing to kind of explore this idea and use it as a way to kind of envision 100 possibilities of what could be, as opposed to what Frederick Law Olmsted did when he designed Central Park, which was just design it once. And I don't know, I was really struck by that these folks were kind of willing to take that risk and think about what the realm of possibilities could be. And then they said all the right things too about how set that aside when you're done, put humans back in charge, and have them kind of treat AI as like a creative assistant, but keep it in the right spot.
You're so close.
What I've heard from all of you today is that in your companies, like intrinsic motivation is very important. And I would like to know how your collective engagement with communities as well as your staff, how did that change the trajectory of your companies as to what you thought was important and the biggest problems to work on presently, even though you may have an ideal of over the next 10 years we would like to accomplish XYZ, but after your engagement with communities and people, how does that change what you think is important?
Oh, sure. This has been a pretty major focus for me in my 6.5 months on the job. I realized we have many stakeholders in the work that we do: businesses, environmental groups, community members, other parts of government, and what I've begun to, and you get bombarded all the time, you know, we're being told what, let me frame it around communities particularly, we're being told what, by lots of people who don't live in communities, what communities think. And I experienced this pretty early on in the job, and I realized I just have to have a direct relationship with all stakeholders, but especially the people that we're ultimately trying to serve. And I found that when I do that, particularly in overburdened communities that struggle for representation and that have more than the lion's share of challenges as it relates to environmental degradation, pollution, and so forth, the problems that they're facing don't just neatly fit into a permit that we're issuing or one particular issue. They're multivariate. There are lots of things. There could be a traffic issue. There could be a park that's out of operation or has safety issues. It could be toxic contamination, and they all interact with one another. And it's not, the way the issues come out when you're actually talking to people in the community is very different than how it shows up in the press or advocates on one side of the issue or another. And the only way that I can really filter that is to have as direct a relationship as I can, and then to encourage others in our organization to do that. And that includes any stakeholder, but I think really in communities, because ultimately we're trying to serve the 10 million citizens of the state.
In the interest of time, this is such a rich topic. We could probably do an entire session on that. I'm sorry to cut off the questions and the other panelists, but it's time to close. So maybe we'll do this again. So I want to say I am so grateful to the funders, the policymakers, the advocates, the land trust, the engineers who keep Michigan so beautiful. And I'm grateful to this panel for sharing your wisdom and for the attendees for your enthusiasm for leadership in the environmental sector. Please give our panel a round of applause. Rob has a few announcements.
I want to thank all of you, and Dunrie. Let's give Dunrie a hand for being a wonderful moderator. And Dunrie, what you said at the beginning was just beautiful. So I'd like to be able to post that if that's okay. I think Dunrie's got a career as a poet and as well as and Tim, if you need somebody to write, I know where to go. So thank you all for coming. This is a great thing. I mean, I have 4 people in my family. Two boys are working in the environment. One is working for SkySpecs, which is working on wind energy. Another one's with the New York Times, and he created the Environment newsletter. So, and then I have a daughter-in-law who's environmental consultant, and another one who is my other daughter-in-law is putting energy into Africa. So trying to electrify Africa. So everybody, and I know lots of young people that are working in this area. There's great opportunities. Phil, are you hiring for those 400 positions? Yeah.
We have probably 130 positions available, and they're all over. Some very technical, some very different. If you or a loved one are looking for work and want to be part of making the world a better place. Check out our website, contact us, because there's a lot of opportunities there. So that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. That's not a word, a topic we've heard. 150 jobs in Michigan. You know, over the 25 years, we've been in a lot of different places, but it sounds very encouraging. So we're going to wrap up. I want to just thank Bill on the camera work. Where's Bill? Thanks, Bill. Bill, the name of your company is Ikon. Okay, so if you want to hire some great videographers, and all of these LeadersConnect are available through my website, and that's like 20 years of experience. Experts from all over the country, but mostly from Michigan. Again, I want to plug my book, Men and Aging, and if you want to purchase one, cash or Venmo, or I'll give you credit if you write out the form. So, Roger, you got something?
Yeah, you need to tell people why you look like a pirate.
Oh, I look like a pirate because I like pirates. What the hell? You know that advertisement they used to have, like the sexiest man alive? He had a goatee and so I'm going for that, man. Now I have glaucoma, and the drops I'm taking make this eye very sensitive. So that's another pitch to people about healthy. Go to eye doctors. So that's something that sometimes people ignore. If it's picked up early, glaucoma can be really controlled. If not, it can cause loss of vision from very different. You get blind spots, and I'm not driving. This thing is, there's a lot of things with aging that are kind of a difficult thing and difficult adjustment. But we keep trucking on. So that's the key. Does that answer your question, Roger? Yeah. So I want people to network. We could stay for a while in this room. Do you have any idea, like, how fast we need to be out? Maybe 15 minutes. And then if people want to gather for sit down for having breakfast or something, let me know. We could get a couple tables and continue the conversation. So once again, thank you, everybody. It's just wonderful to get to know you. I know Phil a little bit from his previous lives. He was my CPA, he was my lawyer, he's my doctor, and a dentist. You're really great hands. So we'll see you on the 23rd for Michigan Heart Month. You want to say anything about that, Sydney? Come on up if you want. She's with the Heart Association, real quick.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sydney, and I'm the current director for the Ann Arbor Heart Walk with the American Heart Association, and we're really excited to spread awareness about Heart Month. As Rob mentioned, cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer in America, and it's just really important to spread awareness, know your numbers, keep track of your heart health, exercise, all of those things. So really excited to see you all in February.
So what if they want to walk?
Yeah. So you can come up to me if you want to talk about the Heart Walk. We engage companies, the community, anyone who wants to come out and walk. There is a fundraising aspect, but it is free to sign up. It's going to take place on May 5th this year at Washtenaw Community College. We do have a website for the Heart Walk as well, and we're always open to engaging more people and anyone in the community. Kemper from Applied Fitness is on our leadership team, actually, and we're just excited to be able to talk more about the Heart Association. So if you have any questions, feel free to come up and talk to me.
I was thinking, as you were all talking, that the environment also comes with inside. I mean, you said, Lisa, something about taking care of yourself, and we have an environment in ourselves, the heart, the lungs, all parts of the body, and it's really complex, and we need to take care of that and understand it. So it applies to everything. So network, am I forgetting anything? Okay, I got it all. I wanted Karen to say hi. Karen is designing my book, my website, and she's a good person if you need resources in that, Karen Tuttle. All right, let's go on. Party on.
Hey, Rob, thank you so much. Hey, you got any AI talks coming up?